everybody, welcome back to our channel Kavi Web Designs, and today I'm going to tell you all about HTML table borders. But before we jump into our topic, what did we do previously? Let's go to our table of content. I'm going back to our table of content. As you see here, previously we had done many chapters like HTML attributes, HTML quotations, and HTML favicon, all the way until HTML tables. Inside of HTML tables, we are doing HTML border. Now let's go back to HTML border. But before we go back to HTML border, I have a request for you. If you didn't watch our last video, please watch it right now. Table borders. What are HTML table borders? HTML table can have borders of different styles and different shapes, like round boxes, rectangle boxes, any kind of box. Here, as we have how to add a border. How do you actually add a border? To add a border, use the CSS border property on the table, th, and td elements. As you see here, example, now I'm showing here the table, the th and the td, and I have the border with 1 pixel solid black. Now let's go in Visual Studio Code to learn about more. Now, as you see here, we have our HTML here, the head here, and now inside of our head we have the style element. Inside of our style element, we have the table, we're styling the table, th, the table header, the table data cell, all with a border of 1 pixel solid black. The same code that was written in the PowerPoint presentation. And we have a header 2, of course, and a paragraph, of course. Now we have a simple table with the style of width 100%, and we have the the first table row, and then we have 3 more th, the table headers. First th is the first name, second th is the last name, last th is the age. And here we have another table row, and here we have the table data. With that, we have a person's name called Jill Smith and his age 50, and same for Eve and same for John Doe. Now let's run this to see what's going to happen. Now as you see here, you have all of these here with our header 2 and our paragraph. Now as you see here, it came very styled in the format that I wanted it to come, as you see here. And you may have seen many websites like Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, like many forms other, they all use some borders. You know where the border comes from? It all comes from HTML. So HTML is the most important language in any way. Even if you're creating a website, you can't make any website without HTML. HTML is needed for anything, for even a website, a form, or anything. Now, collapse table borders. To avoid having double borders like in the example above, set the CSS border collapse property to collapse. This will make the borders collapse in a single border. As you see here, table, th and td, we have the same code as before, but we have an additional property, the border collapse property with the I set it on collapse. Now let's go in Visual Studio Code. As you see here, we have the same code that was written as before. And we have a header 2 and a paragraph here. And now as you see here, we have the same code that was written before, the table style with 100%. And we're going to use this style with 100% throughout this video. Now as you see here, we have all of the table data, the table headers and all. Now let's run it to see what's going to happen. As you see here, I'm running it with Google Chrome. Now here, I got my header 2 with some context and paragraph with some other context. And here, as you see here, I have my collapse border instead of like suppose the Smith having a border, making it like uneasy for you. Now when we put border collapse, it came collapse, so that means it didn't come with a additional like border and all. Now let's go back to our PowerPoint presentation. style table borders. If you set a background color of each cell and give the border a white color, the same as the document background, you get the impression of invisible border. As you see here in our example here, we have the table, we are styling the table header, the table data with all a border of 1 pixel solid white. They have border collapse on collapse. And here we are also styling table header and table data with a background color of and hashtag 96D4D4. That means it's like a light blue of color powder blue. Now let's go in Visual Studio Code to look at this. As you see here, I have the same code, and as I told you, we're gonna use this same code throughout this video. This same code will be used throughout this video, so I will only explain it once. I have my table headers inside of my one table row, and same for them, but except the table header, it is a table data. Now let's run it to see what's going to happen. Now here we have our header 2 and our paragraph, of course. And here you feel like have an impression that the borders are coming invisible. So you're having an impression that the borders are invisible. As you see here, I'm checking the fluidity. Now let's go back to our PowerPoint presentation. Round table borders. With border radius property, the borders get rounded corners. Here, as we have an example here, the same code that was before. The table, we're styling the table header, the table data cell with the border 1 pixel solid black, and now we're styling the border radius. That means it's gonna make it into like a circle of 10 pixels. Now let's go in Visual Studio Code to look at this. As you see here, we have the same code that was shown before. Now here we have a header 2 and a paragraph, of course. And here we have the same code that was displayed before. Now let's run it to see what's going to happen. Now we have our header 2, our paragraph here, and now we have our border. Now here I never collapsed it, so the border comes inside and outside also. Now let's go back to PowerPoint presentation. If you skip the border around the table by leaving out table from the CSS selector. As you see here, now I only have table header and table data in my example, but no table because I left it out. Now I gave it a border of 1 pixel as before and a border radius of 10 pixels. Now let's go in Visual Studio Code. As you see here, we have the same code that was displayed before, the header 2 and a paragraph here. Now let's run it to see what's going to happen. Running it with Google Chrome. Now as you see here, you'll get the effect that is collapsed. Now as you see here, we have our header 2 and our paragraph. We have our table here, the border table. And now instead of having a border outside of all of these, the table data and the table header is now like collapsed. So never gave it the property collapsed. Now let's go to PowerPoint presentation to learn about more. Dotted table borders. With the border style property, you can set the appearance of the border. The following values are allowed. Here we have dotted, which comes dotted, of course. Now we have solid, which means it doesn't come like dashed, dotted, or like double than anything. Now we have double, which is just like solid, but two lines come. That means instead of being like thick and all, like one line gets separated from another line. And now we have groove, rigid, inside, outside, and done and hidden. That I will explain later. Now here we have an example where we're giving our table header and our table data cell a border style with dotted. That means whatever you wrote in table data cell, the outside of the border will come dotted. Now let's go in Visual Studio Code to run it. As you see here, I have the same code here, the same styling, and we have a header 2 and a paragraph, of course, running it without debugging. Now as you see here, we have the header 2 and our paragraph. Now as you see here, our table came dotted and all. So even the data cells, the table headers came dotted. Now let's go back to our PowerPoint presentation. And last and finally for this topic is border color. With the border color property, you can set the color of the border. Here we have an example where we have the table header and we're styling the table header and the table data with the background with the border color of 96D4D4, which is just like a powder blue color but lighter or darker. I don't know it. So let's go in Visual Studio Code. As you see here, we have the same code that was written here. We have the same styling and we have a header 2 and a paragraph. Now let's run it to see what's going to happen. Oh, seems like there's another Google Chrome running. Let's close the Google Chrome. Now I'm closing my Google Chrome and I'm running it again. As you see here, I'm running it with Google Chrome. Now here we have a header 2 and a paragraph. We have a table with the border color of a powder blue, something lighter or darker. Now let's go to PowerPoint presentation. Now here we have our next chapter, HTML table sizes. HTML table sizes can have different sizes from each column, row or the entire table. As you see here, our first one in the middle it has a bunch of space, and as you see here in the second one, both of the sides have some space, size. HTML table width. What is the HTML table width? To set the width of a table, add the style attribute to the table element. As you see here with our example here, we are setting the width of the table to 100% with the same code that was shown us before. Now let's go to Visual Studio Code to visualize it. As you see here, we have the same code that was written before. We're styling our table header, our table data with a border 1 pixel solid black and border collapse as collapse. Now let's run it to see what's going to happen. Now here we have a border here, as we have a border. Now let's go to our PowerPoint presentation to learn about more. HTML table column width. To set the size of a specific column, add the style attribute on the table header or the table data element. As you see here with our example, we set the width of the first column to 70%. Now, as you see here, we gave the table style with 100%, of course, and then we gave the first table header with a width of 70%. Now let's go in Visual Studio Code to learn about this. Now as you see here, we have the same code that was written before. We have the same styling and all. And now let's run it to see what's going to happen. As you see here, we have our first column width of 70%. So that means it came very like long. We got stretched out and it came very long. Now let's go in with Microsoft PowerPoint to learn about more. HTML table row height. Just like the HTML table row width is the same thing with the height. Now here in our example here, we're setting the table style with the width of 100%, and we're giving the second table row with the style of height 200 pixels. Now let's go in Visual Studio Code to see what's going to happen. As you see here, we have the same code, we have the table, we have the same style, and we have a header too. And now let's run it to see what's going to happen with Google Chrome, of course. And as you see here, we have our header too. And inside of our border, our table headers are okay. But our first column got a height of 200 pixels, so that's why it came like this. Now let's go to PowerPoint presentation to learn about more. Now here we're moving on the next chapter, HTML table headers. What are table headers? Table headers are defined with the TH element. Each TH element represents a table cell. Here we have an example where inside of a table we have the same thing that was shown before but shortened a little bit. Now let's run it to see what's going to happen. Now let's go in Visual Studio Code to look at this. As you see here, we have the same style, a header 2, a paragraph, and we have the table style set to 100% width and the same code as before. Now let's try to see what's going to happen. Selecting the debugger as groom. Now here I have my header 2 and my paragraph, and here as you see the border here, the table header is a header, so that's why it's coming in the center instead of coming to the left. Now let's go to our PowerPoint presentation to learn about more. Lastly, we have align table headers. By default, table headers are bold and centered, as I told you. Here we have the same example as before. To left align the table header, we use the CSS text align property. And here we have an example where we're styling the table header with the text alignment of left. Now let's go in Visual Studio Code to learn about this. As you see here, we're giving the table header the table data cell with all a border 1 pixel solid collapse as before, and the border collapse of collapse. We have a table 1. We have a table header with the text alignment of left. Now, as you see here, we have a header 2 and a paragraph and the same code as before. Now let's run it to see what's going to happen. Here we have a header 2 and here we have a paragraph. Now as you see here, our table header didn't come centered. It came to the left alignment of left. So friends, this is our topic today, and if you like this video and you want to support us, please like, share and subscribe to our channel Kavi Web Designs, and I hope you have a nice day. See you in the next video. Bye bye.